Beruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Kuf Nun Hey Amud Aleph. 15 lines from the top at the new Mishnah. Our Mishnah discusses the dinim of preparation of food to feed an animal on Shabbos. Says the Mishnah, Matirin Pikiye Amir Lifnei Behema. One is permitted to untie the bundles of straw before an animal. And he may spread out the kifin, but not the zirin. I purposely did not define kifin and zirin because the Gemara is going to explain what these are. The Mishnah continues, Ein meraskin loyes hashachas. One may not cut up the shachas. Those are that plants that grow, they're less than a third grown, and they are sometimes used for fire. Otherwise, they are sometimes used for animal feed. So you cannot cut up not the shachas and not the carobs before an animal. The Tanna Kama says, Bein daka, bein gasa, whether it's an animal that is like a lamb, a behema that is a daka, or a cow like a behema gasa. Rabbi Yehuda mate becharuvin ledaka. Rabbi Yehuda says, in regards to carobs, one is permitted to cut up the carob before a behema daka. Explains the Gemara, Omar Rav Huna, hein pekin, hein kifin. Both pekin and kifin are one of the same, meaning to say they are both bundles of straw. In which case, what is the difference between the two of them? Explains Rav Huna. Pekin tray, kifin tlosa. Pekin are tied on the top and the bottom, whereas kifin are tied both on the bottom and the top as well as in the middle. Zirin the arzi. Zirin are those moist branches of the cedar tree. So this is how you explain the Mishnah. V'hochi kamer, says Rav Huna. Matirin b'kiyei amire lifnei behema umefasfasin. He says one may untie the bundles of straw, what we're calling the ki, that are bundled and on two different places, top and bottom, and he also may scatter them about in front of the animal. V'huadin the kifin, so too when it comes to those bundles of straw that are tied in three places, he also may undo them and also scatter them before the animals. Aval lo yasazirin, but not those moist cedar branches. That he cannot, lo lefasfes v'lo lahati, not scatter and not even to undo their ties. Omar Rav Chizda. Rav Chizda comes to explain, why did Rav Huna explain the Mishnah in this way? My time de Rav Huna, kasava lemitrach beuchla tarchinan, because Rav Huna is of the opinion that we will exert ourselves to enhance the food for the animal to eat, so that he'll eat and be more apt to eating by enticing him more. But l'shivuye uchla lo meshavnina. But in regards to making the food oichel, that we will not do. And that's the shita of Rav Huna. And therefore Rav Huna explains, when it comes to pekin and kifin, we will both undo and we will scatter them to make it more enhanced by the animal. But zirin, that are moist branches, since those are sometimes designated anyways for fuel, we will not go ahead and then make them food to feed the animal. And therefore they're left not only not to be scattered, but not only to also not to be untied from their bundles. Rav Yehuda Omar. Rav Yehuda is cholek on Rav Huna, and he explains as follows: Hein pekin, hein zirin. Pekin and zirin are the same in the Mishnah. What's the difference? Pekin trays, zirin tlos, they're both bundles of straw. Pekin has two ties, one on the top and the bottom, whereas zirin has three ties, top and bottom, as well as in the middle. Kifin da arzi. Kifin, however, are those moist branches of the cedar tree. V'hochi kamar, and this is how you have to read the Mishnah according to Rav Yehuda. Matirin piki amire lifnei behema aval pisfusei loy. He says you can undo You can untie the bundles of straw of the pekin, but you may not spread out those bundles of straw, those straw in front of the animals. The kifin, pispuse nami mefasfinon, avlo, right? But kifin, which he said is the moist branches of the cedar tree, they can not only be undone, meaning untied, but they can also be spread out in front of the animals. Avoloi hazirin, but not the zirin that are tied in 3 places. Lefasfes, elo lahatir, they can only be untied, they cannot be spread about in front of the animals. Omar Rav, Rav comes to explain the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. My time of Rabbi Yehuda, why does Rabbi Yehuda say this, explain the mission this way? Kisovar, shavuye uchla meshavin, because he said we can make oichel so that it's edible for the animals. Matrach uchla lo tarchinan, but to be tareach, to exert ourselves, to give excess, to enhance the food for the animals, that we will not do. The Gemara now asks on Rav Huna Shita. That again, which Rav Huna says, we do not go ahead and make it so that its food can be then given to the animal. In other words, if it was set aside, let's say, as food that is cedar branches, that is moist, and it's set aside, let's say, for fire, we're not going to go ahead and make it so that it's edible for an animal. But if it's already edible for an animal, we'll go ahead and enhance the food for the animal. So the Gemara now asks on that sheet of Rav Huna, Tnan, it says in our Mishnah, Ein meraskin es hashachas v'sacharu mifnei behema bein daka bein gasa. Our Mishnah states that we do not cut up the shachas, we said that which grows less than 1/3, and the charuvim, the caribs, we do not cut them in order to then feed nor the behema daka nor the behema gasa. My love asked the Gemara, Charuvin Dumi the Shachas, is it not that the caribs are being compared to the Shachas? Ma Shachas derechiche af Charuve derechiche. Just like the Shachas is soft, so too the Charuvin is also soft. Alma lo tarchinem beuchlo. Obviously, we see over here that we are not matriach to enhance the oichel. V'tiyuf de Rav Huna, and this is a refutation on the Rav Huna Shita. Because he said you would be matriach to then go ahead and enhance the oichel. And our Mishnah states that we do not cut it, not for the behema gasa, but not for the behema daka. Or malach Rav Huna. Rav Huna says, not a refutation on me. Loi shachas dumid de charuvin. Not like you said that the charuvim are dumid de shachas. The other way around. It's really the shachas that's compared to the charuvin, because the charuvim are hard. And therefore, ma charuvin da akushi, af shachas da akushi. Just as the caribs are hard, so too we're talking about shachas that it's hard. Heichi mishkachas lo. How do we have a situation that is so? Bi'ile zutri. When it comes to young donkeys, they have a hard time chewing, and therefore it says over here that because they are hard, therefore we're not going to head and over here enhance it. Here we're talking about where it's not even edible. And therefore that's the kavan of the Mishnah when it says we do not cut the shachas, which is hard, just like the charuvim, which is hard, because that would make it edible for the animal. Toshma, the Gemara now asks another question on Rav Huna Shita. Rav Yehuda matir becharuvim ledaka. It says in the hemshech of the Mishnah, in the Seifa, that Rabbi Yehuda does permit one to cut the charuvim for the behema daka. Ledakein legasalo, only for a behema that is a behema daka but not a behema gasa. Iamris b'shlom tanakama sover mitrach beuchla loy tarchin shavi mishavinon. It would be fine and well if you say that we're talking about over here that Tanakh says you can go ahead and matriach yourself to go ahead and make it edible, but not matriach yourself to go ahead and enhance the food like the shita of Rabbi Yehuda. That would go very well. Haine deka omar Rabbi Yehuda hacharuvin ledaka nami shavi uchlahu. Then it would make sense that why Rabbi Yehuda says that when it comes to the charuvin, they can go ahead and yes, cut it for the daka, because that would make it so it's edible for the behema daka. Eliyamis Tanakama Savar Shavi Uchla Loy Meshavinon Mitrach Beuchla Metarchinon. But if you hold that indeed we're talking about that you're not allowed to make it oicha, but you can go ahead and enhance it, then Rabbi Yehuda the matir becharuvin the daka. Why would Rabbi Yehuda matir the charuvin just for the daka? If he's going ahead and enhancing it, then kosher came the gasa. He should go ahead and enhance it for the gasa even more so. So therefore, it's mashma not like Rav Huna, like a tiyufta. Misavris daka answers Rav Huna. Does it mean daka mamish, a behema daka? No, that's not the kavanah of the Mishnah. My daka gasa, it means actually a behema gasa. Aye, the obvious question is, but it says daka. Umay karile daka, the daika ba'uchla. That which it says daka means that it's daka in his dakus of oichlin, that it wants that the food be in small pieces. Hamediktani Reisha asked the Gemara if that's what it's talking about, really a behema gasa, but it means to say that you can cut, according to Rabbi Yehuda, you can cut it into very fine pieces, and therefore it's in order to be matriach to enhance the food for the behema daka. So ask the Gemara, Hamediktani Reisha bein daka bein gasa, but our Reisha states according to Tanakama that you cannot cut it not for the behema daka, not for the behema gasa. So clearly he's talking about a behema daka, and not just that it was daka for fine pieces. Umay karile daka, bein gasa, michlad de Rabbi Yehuda daka. Daka mamish. It must be that Rabbi Yehuda is arguing the Tanakama. The Tanakama is talking about behema daka and behema gasa. When he says daka, it means behema daka. The Gemara says daka mamish ka'omar. And therefore, kasha, it's a kusha. The lashon of the Mishnah is difficult according to Rav Huna's shita. The Gemara now asks, according to the other shita, the shita of Rav Yehuda, who said that we are mashve oichel for the behema, but we will not go ahead and enhance the oichel. And that's why he said in the Mishnah, when it comes to those bundles of straw that are tied, whether tied in two or tied in three places, we'll not only be able to then untie them, but we'll also be able to scatter them, because he says that enables the animal to be able to eat. Says the Gemara, Toshma, Gemara wants to now challenge the opinion of Rav Yehuda. Mechatchim es hadluyin lifnei behema ves hanavei lifnei klovim. We're on top of Kuf Nun Hey Amud Beis. The Mishnah states that we will cut the gourds, and we will, to be able to put in front of the animals, and we will also cut the nevela meat to put it in front of the dogs. My lav dluyin dumya de nevela. Is it not that we're comparing the deluyim, the gourds, to the nevela? And just like nevela is soft, therefore we're talking about soft gourds. Man nevela de rechicha af deluyim de rechiche. Alma tarchinem ba'uchla v'tiyufta de Rav Yehuda. Obviously we're talking about, therefore, that we are matriach to go ahead and enhance the food. Because it's soft, nonetheless we'll cut it so that we'll go ahead and feed it and make it more easily edible for the animals. And therefore it's a refutation on the sheet of Rav Yehuda. Omar lach Rav Yehuda will say back to you, lo, it's not a refutation on me. Nevela dumya deluyin, the opposite. We're saying the comparison is that nevela is similar to deluyin, and deluyin is kosher, so too the nevela we're talking about is kosher. As follows, ma deluyin de ashuni af nevela de ashuna. Just like the gourds are hard, so too the nevela we're speaking about over here in this Mishnah is also hard. What's considered to be a nevela, meat that's going to be hard? Bebasar pili, the basar of an elephant. That basar is very tough. Inami, alternatively, biguriyaisa zutri. We're talking about small puppies, young puppies. They themselves don't have the wherewithal to eat that which is a little bit hard, and therefore we need to then be able to then feed them the nevela, so therefore we'll cut up the nevela to make it edible for them. So it's not in order to enhance the food, but rather to make it edible for these puppies. And that's what the kavanah of the Mishnah is when it says you can cut the nevela lifnei haklavim. Toshma, the Gemara challenges once again the Tani Rav Chanan min Herdo. Mefarchin teven v'aspatka uma'arvin. It says we can go ahead and smash the teven, the straw, as well as the spakta. Spakta is the shachas that we said grows less than 1/3. And then we can mix it together. So we see from here, alma, tarchinem ba'uchla. We are matriach ourselves to enhance the food because we're going ahead and smashing teven and the shachas and mixing it together. So again, we have a challenge, a refutation on the shita of Rav Yehuda, who says we're only mashva oichel to make it edible, but we're not going to enhance it. Answers the Gemara, no, it's not a kasha. Teven betivna sarya. We're talking about teven that became spoiled. Aspatza beile zutre. And therefore, since we have teven that became spoiled, we have to go ahead and crush the teven together with the aspatza, with the shachas, and thereby mix it together to make it edible for the animal. And we're talking about beile zutri, we're talking about the young donkeys. For them to be able to eat this type of food, this type of teven, we must, again, smash it and mix it together with the smashed aspatza. Only then does it become edible, like the Shita Rabbi Yehuda says, to then be able to make it edible for the animal to eat.